I'm interested from all of you fellas, like, what does he need to do this time? Because we know, like, the usual laundry list of things that Santa Trump were to do. But outside of that, given the election, what do we got?
Trump gets Kash Patel in there, and there are multiple new sheriffs in town, and there's going to be people held accountable. We need that.
Yeah.
One of the things that President Trump could do as a wish this Christmas is let innocent political victims of the Biden administration out of prison.
But you have to do the right thing.
Yeah.
The night before inauguration, you have to leave a Big Mac and fries and a Diet Coke by the chimney.
Because he's been keeping a list and he's checking it twice.
He is checking it twice.
And if you're here and you're a criminal illegal alien, he's going to deport your ass.
To go further, you need to be ready for what's down the road. As energy demand continues to rise, we're harnessing breakthrough innovations to increase production in the U.S. Gulf of Mexico. Our latest deepwater development, Anchor, produces previously inaccessible oil and natural gas, allowing us to deliver the energy we all need today so everyone can follow their own road. That's energy in progress.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please.
Just a catching strays over here.
You're in for a hell of a show.
Keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs.
It's time for our main event.
Good Thursday to you. No time off. No time off here for the Ruthless Friday program. Lots to do. We're going to talk about all of that. I'm Josh Holmes, comfortably smug, Michael Duncan, John Ashbrook, left to right across your radio dial. We trust that you had a wonderful Christmas holiday and you got exactly what you wanted. The one thing, and I'm going to go off script right off the bat.
Let's do it.
Like just moment one. There's been talk for your OG listeners. You remember the story of the traveling brooch. The story of the traveling brooch was our good friend John Ashbrook there on the end, was once a fledgling congressional staffer with a wonderful young family. And he spent an inordinate amount of time at his desk. And because of that, maybe a day or two before Christmas, you decided then was the time to purchase a gift.
I think it was December the 23rd.
Well, he was right there in Congress, so he traveled down to the House?
House of Representatives gift shop. And I bought my wife, God bless her, I bought my wife a fleece jacket with a house symbol on it.
Because what woman wouldn't want one of those?
Right. A blanket with a house symbol on it.
Important to represent the people's house.
And a brooch that had, it was like plastic painted gold with like plastic ruby eyes on the elephant. It was an elephant. And it was, she cried when I gave it to her.
God.
Those weren't tears of joy.
They were not tears of joy.
No,
she was not overwhelmed.
No, she was like, how in the world did I end up with him?
He'd be like the equivalent of us now, like filling the stocking for our wives with Ruthless gear.
Yeah, no,
You know?
it would be. It would be.
Here's a bunch of shit for my work.
Right. So it's just
Just
the worst.
scrounging around the back office to see what hats are available.
Here's
and
some golf balls. You think about taking up golf?
The absolute worst
I thought of you.
husbanding anybody's ever heard of.
It was so bad. So we made up this whole bit about the traveling brooch, and it should be passed on to congressional staffers who find themselves similarly young, married, without any sort of perspective on how important their significant other is
Right.
at that particular time.
Right.
And then you should just deliver the brooch to that person that you know will be out of a gift. Like they don't have any gift ideas at the last minute, and they can give said traveling brooch. And it can go year to year.
Yeah.
So brutal.
And we tried to find it, and I looked all over our house, and
There's no way it made it past the
funny enough, nowhere to be found.
I think we'll find Jimmy Hoffa before we find
Right,
that brooch.
100%. That thing's been in a landfill since December 26th of the year that you've...
Yeah, that's exactly right. But you know what's funny is that Mary Catherine Ham, great friend of the program, and Ben Dominic's little sister, Emily, got together and they brought me a brooch and they were like, here you go.
Oh, really?
Just as sort of like a gag thing. Very funny. They're very, very funny women. So we have something.
I
that
mean,
we
I
can
think
pass
I
on.
think we should maybe send that out. Like at some point, we obviously can't do it this year, but like next year, we should just notify congressional staffers
Yeah.
before the holidays that, like, look, if you're at wit's end
Mm-hmm.
and we want a story, we'll gift you the brooch.
Yeah. But we're going to need proof that you're at your desk in the Capitol
Yeah.
on December 23rd.
Yes, we
That's
need
the
that.
only way to qualify.
That's the only way to qualify.
Yeah.
And know that you are desperately out of options. But, you know, I mean, you really stepped up your game, Ashbrook. I understand you bought a refrigerator and a dishwasher this year.
It was a pure middle-aged Christmas. We bought it for each other. There were no tears this time around because it was
functional.
something we badly needed.
You left
So-
one. You left one out. He also got a treadmill.
Oh,
But everybody in our house needs to use it, including yours truly.
it's just so good.
Well, I think that's like something that ends up happening is once you get to a certain age, like I would be asked by family members and such ahead of this Christmas, like, oh, what do you want? It's like nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Please don't buy me anything.
Yeah, please
I don't
get
have
me
any
anything.
room to put
yeah,
stuff.
I have all the things I need or want. Please, like socks are probably great.
Yeah.
Because sure. I mean, I absolutely always need socks, but it's like I just don't want anything anymore.
Well, it's funny that you should mention that because I know it's a day after Christmas. I have presents for you guys.
Oh.
I do. A very good friend of mine started a fashion company some years ago.
Huh.
And she sent these in for you. So they're not from me, they're from her. Her name is Gray
Like, I was
Hall.
like, I got you guys gifts.
Yeah.
This is what someone said.
Immediately, I felt inadequate, and then now it's resolved.
Her name is Gray Hall, and she sent you guys in the moment of euphoria following the Trump victory.
Oh my gosh.
She sent you guys pocket squares.
Oh,
so
yes.
Smug,
No kidding.
Smug mentioned his socks. Pocket squares are something everybody can
Oh,
always use. And look
holy
at these.
smokes, these things
totally
look amazing.
American.
Those are pretty cool.
Great design. And you know, she outfits people on Fox.
at
She outfits
that.
people everywhere. GrayHallDesign.com.
That is
and she
very cool.
has taken
Beautiful.
very, very good care of the fellas at the Ruthless Variety Program.
GrayHall.com.
GrayHallDesign.com.
GrayHallDesign.com.
Yeah.
That is very
These are
thoughtful.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's getting put to use.
Yeah, and you guys are always on TV. A very important set of people here on this stage. You're always on TV, so you're always looking for a pocket square to throw in that jacket. This is perfect for you because
Well,
it's
and
American colors.
A new year and a new pocket square. that is what I aim to do. Thank you very much. That's very kind. And I mean, those are terrific.
Yeah, they look
Yeah.
great.
Design is amazing. Thank you to all of you listeners. I hope everybody had everything that they wanted for Christmas. We're going to talk a little bit about what Santa Trump has in store.
Yeah.
You know, Santa Trump, he comes a month later.
Yeah.
Right, you get to Christmas on the 25th. On the 20th of January, Santa Trump
Yeah.
gets here. And, you know, we want to talk a little bit about, like, what's the wish list look like?
All right. So I just got to point out that my friends at Americans for Prosperity made a huge difference this year. AFP volunteers made millions of voter contacts, which is absolutely mind-blowing. They are the largest, most effective ground game operation in the country to defend and advance the conservative movement. But now that the election is behind us, the hard work of turning electoral victory into policy wins begins. And the grassroots army with Americans for Prosperity will again be in the thick of it. We have an incredible opportunity next year to get the country back on track, but it means we're all going to have to roll up our sleeves and get to work. If you're ready to join a winning team making a difference across the country, check out my friends at AFP, and you can learn more at americansforprosperity.org.
But you have to do the right thing.
Yeah.
The night before inauguration, you have to leave a Big Mac and fries and a Diet Coke by the chimney.
Because he's been keeping a list and he's checking it twice.
He is checking it twice.
And if you're here and you're a criminal illegal alien, he's going to deport your ass.
So, I mean, look, we've covered, each one of you, you've been with us on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we've talked about all the important issues that not only surrounded this election, but ultimately what cleaved away huge numbers of people who voted for Joe Biden in 2020 that ultimately supported Donald Trump. We know what issues kind of did that. I think that kind of formulates, in some ways, what you would like to happen. I mean, remember, there's first in 2017, the first year of his first term, I think there was like something like 80 executive orders. Much of the executive orders from each administration are done to counteract what the previous administration has done, right? And it's just like resetting the dial, like new sheriff in charge. And they're done kind of all the time. But there are issue sets here that Trump tackled that not only did Democrats reverse, but they made the country a whole lot worse in the process. And I'm interested from all of you fellas, like, what does he need to do this time? Because we know, like, the usual laundry list of things that Santa Trump were to do. But outside of that, given the election, what do we got? Duncan, what do you think?
I mean, number one, it's finish the wall.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I saw that story about how the Biden administration here, you know, in the waning days, is selling off pieces of the wall that they let sit on the ground and rust for the last few years when they stopped construction of the border wall, which is unconscionable. And I'm going to absolutely love it when the liberal media and Democrats in Congress complain about the cost of building the thing after they let all of this bollard steel rust on the fucking ground.
Yeah. It's just a great talking point.
Yeah, great talking
insulation.
Point. Yeah, right. So I think, you know, that is step one, deliver on the campaign promise that made you president.
Yeah, that's right. Smash?
You know, it's very difficult to think of what my number one wish would be, because Joe Biden and Democrats have ruined this country, and thank God Donald Trump was elected to fix the problems they created. And I could say something on tax.
Oh, you're gonna. This is what he does.
He takes everything.
This is what he does. So
he's the Grinch who steals all the.
If you're new to the program, when you ask an open-ended question, and this is my mistake, fellas, I do apologize. This is actually a moderator's problem. It's not your problem. But what happens is when you give him an open-ended, he actually gives the answers to all of them.
Yep.
And then it sort of settles on something, pretending that
So
he
when
didn't
it's your
discuss.
turn or my turn, he's already listed.
He's already listed.
He
all
hoards
of them.
it. You get coal.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll stick with one thing.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are way too many people who are simply walking around the Capitol building on January 6th, and they were not violent. They were doing something they thought they were allowed to do.
Pardons,
And they
is what
have
you're
been
talking about.
sitting in prison, rotting for year after year after year. And I think one of the things that President Trump could do as a wish this Christmas is let innocent political victims of the Biden administration out of prison.
Interesting. Okay. I didn't see that coming from you, but I think that's a very valid point.
Extremely valid. I mean, like, think about this. How many jails across this country are full of the people who set fire to cities?
Yeah, no, there was a Kamala
That
bail
summer
fund for
2020.
all of
Yeah.
that. Yeah. No, I mean they didn't go. Yeah, no, I agree. Smuggles?
I would say actual justice in this country. It's almost like I just mentioned that if you were a friend of the Dems or backed one of their causes, you've had 4 years of lawlessness where you're allowed to do whatever you want. In New York, specifically after the summer of 2020 riots, there was a blanket pardon issued to anyone who had taken part in those riots that there were people in this country who were killed. There were police officers who were killed in that summer of 2020. Assaults that were committed. People's livelihood, businesses burned to the ground. But it goes beyond that. It's not just... that is essentially, to me, the Democrat grassroots, is the people who are out doing violence on the streets. But the actual people at the top. We had gone into how Act Blue had been accepting foreign gift cards for donations, and it's been going on unpunished. How we had those stories of grandmas who a journalist would be like, did you donate 30,000 times to these Democrat candidates in the past 3 weeks? They're like, no, of course not. This level,
You want to get to the bottom of that.
yeah, lawlessness and corruption. So, Trump gets Cash Patel in there, and there are multiple new sheriffs in town, and there's going to be people held accountable. We need that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good. That one's really good. So mine's a little bit more specific, but I think it goes to a much larger issue in that I've watched every time a Democratic administration gets a hold of something, not only do they push this false narrative about what it is that they're trying to solve for, but then they just reward their political allies in the process, right? The first thing that I would love for him to do is eliminate the EV mandates. And I'll tell you why. It's not because I just hate electric cars. I don't have an opinion on electric cars. I've never driven one, probably won't as long as they don't make me. But I hate the idea that they created a marketplace where they convinced environmentalists that somehow it was environmentally friendly to have all of the transportation in this country reliant on Chinese resources.
Great point.
And all of the things that separate us from the world and the reason that why we have such economic security and an abundance of energy here, like throw that all away.
Yep.
And it's like a foreign policy and a national security point to me as much as it is like just a domestic convenience issue. Like I kind of don't care what people drive. I hate the fact they spent $8 billion and built 6 charging stations.
A complete scam.
Like to me that this is like the pinnacle of government waste of it, but it embodies everything about liberalism and the modern progressive left, in that you convince somebody that something is not. It's first of all you got to recharge these things. Where the hell does that energy come from?
Right.
They're not self-recharging. That energy that comes from like coal, natural gas, oil, whatever. But they're trying to do away with all of that, take away our ability to export any of it, and then pretend like the rest of the world is following suit in the name of environmentalism.
Right.
And like if there's one thing you can do to just hatch it off the head of that snake, it's like take the EV thing and just throw it in the garbage.
And here's the thing: it's had dire consequences for the U.S. Like you mentioned, this kind of progressivism. They've tried to force this EV type of mandate on American companies. You see, Ford, GM, these companies got on board when the government was like, here's what we're going to set emission standards for. This percentage of vehicles have to be electric. And they're like, okay, I guess we got to go with this. What happens? Now their lots are full of electric cars that they can't sell.
Well, they're losing billions on it.
What's the fastest depreciating car on the market?
Yeah.
EV models.
EV models.
No one is buying that like EV Hummer that they released. That's sitting on lots. No one is buying the F-150s that are EV. Those are sitting on lots. So now it's companies in America that are suffering. Companies are having to do layoffs because of these mandates.
And the money that the government uses to build this non-existent marketplace doesn't come from nowhere. Regular people who are listening to this show earn that money.
That's right.
And they're forced at gunpoint every April 15th to turn it over and hope to God that it's spent responsibly. What did the Biden administration do? They blew through that money. They spent trillions of dollars on Green New Deal and on all kinds of bullshit that not only wasted taxpayer dollars, but also drove up prices on everything else from eggs to milk. And and ultimately, it has really set this country back economically in a way that the mainstream media will never recognize.
That's the truth.
Totally. So now we did our number ones. I just kind of spitball a few others because, look, there's a lot of issue areas out there. And, like, the tax thing needs to get done.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's vitally important on not only just our economy and our country and how we operate, but how President Trump is ultimately judged in the second term will largely be upon whether or not your life is better or is not better than it was before. And he did that terrifically the first term. They passed a really important tax bill in 2017 that did a lot of that, huge economic growth or whatever. They're obviously going to add to that. You heard a lot on the campaign trail, no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, like all kinds of different things that he was talking about. All of that stuff I think is important. But they got to get this done. And like that's not a day one thing. That's not like a Santa Trump thing. But I really want to see shoulder to the wheel stuff on it. And what I want him to do in the process is dismantle this argument that liberals have built over the years that it's like the rich is basically a W-2 owner or like a LLC or somebody who like the best ladder in this country to go from lower class through the middle class to ultimately something big is not like inventing the wheel. It's building something that people like that you can perform over a period of time. But when you're taxed at like a 52% rate all the way through, like your incentive structure is gone. You might as well go work for a big corporation, rise your way up, use that same ambition to go rise your way up through that, because you're going to be rewarded monetarily much better than you were if you were try to do it on your own.
Yeah, it's the mom and pop shops that take the risk of going into business and then they end up getting slammed with taxes.
That's the argument that I really want him to make, because it's so authentic to who he is and who he's talking to in that industrial Midwest, and all the people who are former Democrats or former, labor union people or current labor union people that understand this uniquely. That if you're going to take the risk to go do something, your government can't sit up there and talk about taxing the rich, and then they raise taxes on a W-2 filer. And what I mean by W-2, I mean, I'm sure you all know, but when I'm talking about you're just filing individual taxes, and then you like pay no attention to any other way that anybody else makes money.
Right.
And like that's the great game that Democrats have played for years and years. It's how they get billionaires at being left-wing lunatics, because they know they'll never touch their investment income. I'm not talking about raising taxes, clearly. I'm talking about recognizing the fact that the economic engine in this country comes from these people who take risks, because it is the only way. It's the reason why our country has such a capacity to move from poor to rich in one generation.
Well, and innovate, right? Because it's all of these companies. It's the creation of companies. It's the LLCs that push markets to be better, to innovate, to change, to do better for consumers. So, the net effect beyond that single individual doing well is it makes all of us get better things.
Yeah.
That's how an economy works. And when you create a system, like to your point, like, gosh, it'd be easier to just join some mega corporation and take a paycheck from there, and maybe I'll rise up the ranks. The economy is, by definition, less innovative as a result of that incentive. And that's why the thing is so messed up.
And let me tell you, that's why you don't see any startups in Europe. That's why Europe is
That's
fundamentally...
such a great point.
Europe's a giant museum. There's no innovators.
And
There's
why
no
it's
risk
essentially a
takers there.
caste system. Like
Right.
you're born into what you're born into.
Right.
And your ability to rise through it. And America's always been different on that. Democrats have fundamentally broken this argument. And if you listen to what they talk about, and they'll do it again. When they bring up the tax bill, they'll talk about tax cuts for the rich. And they're talking only about somebody who has they want to put a prohibition, a taxable prohibition on people to take a risk, to actually do it on their
They do.
own.
They
Because
do.
they're not, they're fundamentally just not interested in taxing their core constituency, which is now like multimillionaire coastal elites.
It's why
Right.
you see Bernie Sanders has gone from going after millionaires to saying it's the billionaires' fault,
Yeah.
because now
Right.
Bernie Sanders is a
It
millionaire.
used to be
Yeah.
millionaires and billionaires, and then it just became billionaires.
Yeah.
Right,
He's
right.
like, I'm not the part of the problem. I'm just a millionaire.
Okay, so here is another one from me, from Santa Trump, and I have multiple, but in the interest of not triggering you guys, I'm only going to say one, and it follows on what Josh was saying. I really want Trump this time to actually dismantle the deep state. There are bureaucrats in our government who misunderstand what their role is. They think they're in charge, not the voters. And so if you wonder, where do all these regulations come from that seem so out of touch with normal people, especially the types who are trying to build a company and to grow that company and employ people, or people who are just trying to like rise up in this country? If you wonder where those insane regulations come from, it comes from unelected bureaucrats who think that they're in charge. And so if Trump could do anything this next term, and it's going to take a while, maybe it's going to take 2 more terms. I'm, of course, for that. Not everybody. Yeah, I'm for a third Trump term.
He won 3 times. He deserves it.
I think as long as it takes, he needs to be very smart about it because these people are extremely entrenched.
And the regs thing is a really good point. It's sort of related to the tax thing as well.
Yeah.
It's like the two things Donald Trump can do that will light, a fire under this economy like immediately.
Yep.
Is reversing those regs. And when he did the Rogan interview in the run up to the election, it's one of those things he says, whenever I talk to business people, they always say, we love what you did with the taxes, but just getting rid of these terrible regulations that like Biden put in or Obama put in immediately made their lives so much easier, and it made it so much easier for them to invest in companies that are already working. It's like all you have to do is take the knee off the throat.
Stop being ideological.
Of the American economy.
Yeah. It's so good.
And the precedence is there. After the Chevron decision, the Supreme Court said that some unelected bureaucrat can't tell a small business what to do.
No,
So
it's totally right. Listen,
we can get there.
we got a lot more ideas. There's just a few. But we got a lot more coming for you right after this. I don't have to tell you Americans are ready for what's next. Moving beyond the hardships of inflation and economic anxiety towards building a future, a better future for our families. Ensuring greater access to more affordable energy that powers daily lives, reliable energy that fuels innovation and economic growth, and the abundant energy that keeps our nation safer and more secure. It's all within our grasp. We'll do this together, building a brighter future for us, powered by America's oil and natural gas resources. You can learn more about all of this at api.org. All right, so look, we covered a little border wall. A lot more to do with immigration, though.
Yeah.
And I forget what the number was. It was like 17 different executive orders that the Biden administration put in place rolling back everything that Trump had done on immigration. We saw the result of that.
They hate safety.
They do.
They hate the country. And the fact that they're like selling pieces of the border wall right now, I mean, it's just telling you, look, it was done intentionally.
Done
and
deliberate.
Like, done deliberate. And that there's components to it. They're important. Like the Remain in Mexico piece of it, which fundamentally disassociated the intent of people to get to here because they couldn't get to here. They had to sit in a place that's arguably worse than they were at in order to like process asylum claims, and then they for the first time have to bear the burden of the weight of the asylum system rather than the rest of us in the country having to fund everything that deals with people while we process claims and kind of like that, those kind of things. Like the immigration piece, I think, is super important beyond just what we're doing with the border wall, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of component parts to this thing that we call, immigration or securing the border and all of that sort of stuff. It also means, streamlining that asylum judge situation, getting the funding in that we really need so that they can properly vet these claims and the people who are abusing this entire system so that they can get into this country through a loophole, and make sure the ones who don't have legitimate claims get kicked out immediately. Yeah. We don't give them a piece of paper and say, well, we'll adjudicate this in 5 years.
Right.
In
the on your honor system.
I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's probably 17 more things that you can do on the immigration front that need to be done because the American people asked for it. They frankly asked for it. I love, by the way, that like, what was it, a few weeks ago with J.D. Vance invited, what's his name, the New York guy? Daniel Penny to the Army-Navy game. It used to be seen as like that's a troll, right? Because the left and BLM or whatever thinks that this guy should be in prison, whatever. That's not what it is anymore.
Right.
What it is a reflection of what people value.
Right.
They value a hero.
That's right.
Who took care of his fellow person within a subway who was unjustly prosecuted. They value that. And like that thing, just in and of itself, what a gift! What a gift! In that case, it's like Santa Santa JD.
Yeah, that's right.
You know,
That's great.
I mean, what a
That's
gift!
exactly right,
It's a
dude. It's
value
exactly right.
change.
Right.
It's highlighting things. You know, you all remember like every time something happens, like gun violence or whatever, you get Democrats that are like they basically pose to make it seem like everybody who owns a firearm in this country is somehow a criminal. Like, just reversing all of that is in and of itself.
Well,
a gift.
there's sometimes that they are not anti-gun, and that's when it's used to murder someone that they see as an opponent. Like, you know, all these guys think Luigi's a hero, but they aren't talking about how well gun control could have prevented this situation. No,
Wasn't
they're
it
like,
amazing?
go Luigi. It's because they believe in nothing. They're just nihilists who want their political opponents to be killed.
That's right. All they care about is power.
That's it.
And this is something like, you know, you stop and think like, wait a minute, why is the left pushing all of these divisions in our society, and why do they care so much about what George Soros thinks, and why do they care about Luigi and everything else? Smug, in the first year of this show, you put it as well as anybody I've ever heard, is that the left cares about only power, and they will do anything to regular people. You know, your interests be damned.
Yeah.
They hate you, and we have to recognize that, and we have to act.
Well, you're an
accordingly.
obstacle,
Yep.
right? Hate would imply they think about you.
Well, that's a good point.
They don't. They don't. I mean, you're just an obstacle to it. If they can like treat you like a maroon, you know, where they just like, roll over you in the path to power, terrific.
They want you
Even better.
demoralized, independent. That's it. They want. Look at New York City. They're like, no, you sit on that subway train while a maniac is threatening people's lives, and you take it. You be demoralized. Don't do anything. You see something, do nothing. They want you demoralized because a demoralized population is easier to control,
Right.
and they want you dependent.
Right.
You just sit and you wait for your government handout. You don't try to start a business. You don't try to make it on your own. You have no chance because of the color of your skin, or some billionaire has ruined your life already, or some CEO has ruined your life. You have no chance. You're dependent on the government. That's what they want.
What they hate is all of you who put Ruthless T-shirts on and said I voted early.
That's right.
They hate it.
That's what
They weren't counting on that.
That's right.
because that all of a sudden it's like all of a sudden tens of thousands of people showing up doing the thing they counted on that wouldn't work out for us so well, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh no, we hate that. We hate that. They hate anything that's an obstacle to their power, for sure. So, like, you know, I mean, you mentioned some FBI stuff, justice stuff, all of these things. Look, there's a lot of people, honestly, that I think there should be an investigation to the people who spent $8 billion and built six things, right? There
Where's the money?
there should be an investigation into
Where'd it
people
go?
who are trying to sell pieces of the wall in the waning days
Yes.
Right.
of this deal. There should be an investigation as to why it is that it took 4 long years to get any answers as to whether there was like intelligence assets or FBI assets in the January 6th crowd. Like, people weight these things differently, but the politics of it cannot be ignored.
Yep. It always goes one way. It's
It
funny how that
always
works.
goes one way. So, like, just the transparency of it, it seems
Yeah.
to me, is so important.
Yeah, I think, like, quick lightning round here. This will be more of a fun one. Well, fun for us, especially for me. But, like, if Santa Trump could deliver one terrible person to Guantanamo Bay, who would it be? I think you guys know who mine would be.
Yeah,
And it's
it's
the
Comey.
person I talk about constantly
Comey.
as being a villain, and that should be written as a villain in all of our history books, and that's James Comey.
I knew you were going to do it. You're very consistent.
I'm never going to forget what a horrible person he is. I think what he did was one of the most dangerous things for our democracy in my lifetime.
Yeah.
He tried to entrap the president-elect of the United States. Like, that's what he did at Trump Tower.
With bullshit.
With bullshit opposition research from Hillary Clinton. I mean, it is incredible to me that he became a hero of the left, wrote a fucking best-selling book, and was booked on television constantly. And people actually think of him as, like, a person with moral clarity.
Yeah.
I mean, what he did was so deceptive. And he did it to the president-elect. I mean, he did that against our country.
Yeah.
You got one?
Gosh, that's so tough because there's.
I got one on the tip of my tongue
Go
if
for it.
you
Go
want
for
one.
it. You go first.
Brennan.
Oh,
Yeah.
right along the same lines.
So it's in the same lines, but I think that that's the guy that cooked it up.
Really?
Like, I can't prove it, but he was a CIA director, right? somebody who authorized assets to go talk to people to sort of build this case, and they help. They also had the total capacity of debunking the whole dossier situation.
Right. Yeah, they act like they couldn't. They knew it was bullshit. They knew it was bullshit before the election because they told Christopher Steele, "We'll give you like $1 million if you can prove this," and he couldn't.
And so, like, they had all the capability in the world. But recall, he went to Congress in August of 2016, where he then tried to persuade then a Republican Congress, House, and Senate that Russia had infiltrated the election. And it was not specific about how, but that they had, and that we needed a full-throated discussion from then Speaker Ryan, then Leader McConnell, about condemning this whole process and that they were basically trying to elect Trump. And like you recall, McConnell at the time was like, "You're full of shit. I haven't seen intel on that.
Yeah.
And we're not doing that." And then they went through like 8 months of castigating McConnell for that discussion. But that like he is the one who invited Russia basically to come do it. And then like that kind of faded away. And then you trace back the steps. They were meeting with the Clintons. They were talking through a closing argument that had something to do with a foreign power, a foreign adversary, sort of stealing this election from the American people. And this was like part of their closing argument. What it became after they lost the election was an excuse.
Right.
And how it is that they lost it.
It was all just
and
political bullshit.
And why it was an illegitimate election.
Right.
So then he takes to the cable airwaves and pretends as though like he's got this top secret clearance. So he's seen information that you and I have not.
Right. He can't give you the particulars, but you know he's seen the documents.
I can tell you with assurance
that
this whole thing has happened. This guy was one of the worst. If the CIA and all of our intel assets have to be completely restructured, which I think they should, if that is the case, it's because of him.
Yeah.
It's because of this guy.
Right.
He did it. And we never would have had this like huge distrust in institutions and intel agencies and everything else.
He did all of that.
He did it.
Can I add one more? So everything that they did sort of clandestinely in 2016 in the fall, where they went to, Speaker Ryan and McConnell, were like, we need to condemn this Russia thing. We need a united front. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. We're trying to win an election. Everything they did there, they did it out in the open in 2020. Just to, rewind the tape to that for all of our listeners. They said that he was a Russian asset. They did this whole Mueller investigation. And Mueller actually goes and testifies before Congress at the end of this thing. And everyone's like, holy shit, the emperor has no clothes.
Yeah.
This guy has nothing. And it isn't true. Trump is not an asset. They didn't collude with Russia. The very next day, and you'll remember this because, McConnell was in cycle at that time.
Yep.
It started. Moscow Mitch.
Oh, yeah.
Moscow Mitch started because they couldn't say Donald Trump was a stooge of Russia anymore. So now they needed a new target because they had to raise money. They had to gin it up. They needed an argument for Election Day. And then all summer, the drumbeat was, well, he's not giving enough money to election security. Russia's going to steal the election again.
Yeah.
That's what they said.
Yeah.
No, he's not enough. They're going to hack into all these computers because Mitch McConnell's holding up some fucking bill.
And then,
bullshit.
And then after the election, get into the election denial thing. He had both sides of the coin that they're playing through the public media. It's unbelievable.
They're like, this election is going to be unsecure because of Moscow Mitch McConnell. And then election day happens, they win, and they're like, most secure election in American history. They are such fucking liars.
They are.
They are like, it makes me actually mad.
They are.
I know.
They are.
Like, this is the kind of thing that, first of all, then they broke the internet.
Yes.
They did all kinds of, like they were like trying to.
They were forcing companies to censor people like Hunter's laptops, a Russian disinformation operation.
Right. And so they won an election in 2018. They won an election in 2020. And what did they do with it? That gets to my Gitmo candidate, which is actually thousands of people. The terrorists, the fighting age men from Tajikistan and Uzbekistan who somehow found themselves walking across the Mexican border, they need to go to Gitmo so that I hope to God our intelligence sources and American military, it's the best in the world, can get information out of them to stop their fucking networks that are operating inside of this country.
Yeah.
Because if we don't do that, there's going to be hell to pay.
Yep.
And so now that we have a new president, now that our security is thankfully able to like be normal and be strong again, those guys need to be in Gitmo so that they can dismantle their networks. I mean, like, I can't think of anything more pressing than that.
Yeah.
You know what they ought to do just for fun? You remember that story about like why Mika and Joe
Yeah.
went down? Because like their whole spin on why they went down to meet Trump. First of all, they're just conniving assholes, and that the reason why they went down there. We all know that. But the spin out of MSNBC was that they went down there because they were actually afraid they might be in like danger from President Trump
Of being sent to Gitmo.
of being sent to Gitmo, right? I'm not saying they should actually send him to Gitmo. It would be very funny if he had like Kash Patel knock on one of their doors one morning and be like, "Hey, you need to come with me." But they would lose it.
No, just kidding. Candid camera.
And then just like, film it and then just hit party music and they're like,
So I've had a couple minutes to think about it, and I think I know who I would love to see sent to Gitmo. This might be a surprise. Alex Soros. So a lot of our listeners may not know who Alex Soros is, or a lot may. And it's because I'd say in the past few months, so Alex Soros is the son of George Soros, and he spent the past couple months leading into the election of basically parading around Democrat politicians like trophies on Twitter. He'll have like Tim Walz come to his
it was like a
penthouse and-
Topps trading card.
yeah,
Like
I
this
own this
is my
guy.
politician.
Yeah, I own him. So like he'd invite them to his like massive, opulent penthouse in Manhattan, and then make them stand next to the window that has a view of the whole city.
Yeah.
Of being like, today I'm bringing out my pet Gretchen Whitmer,
Yeah.
and he'd post a photo of them. And the thing is what the Soros network has done to this country is disgusting. So folks have heard about the Soros prosecutors. What they've done is they're like, well, Republicans have gotten a lot of judges. Let's circumvent that, and
We're gonna go
let's
find prosecutors that don't prosecute
that
crime.
don't even press charges.
We're gonna outlaw
Yeah.
crime.
Which is why all those dumb shit journos who are like, well, actually, I looked at the statistics and crime is down.
No,
Yeah.
it's just
You know, and it's like, well, if they
kills
don't
me.
prosecute the crimes,
Th-
we
those-
don't
those people
know
should also go to
about
Gitmo.
the crimes.
They
Yeah.
should also go to Gitmo, by
Yeah.
the way. Anybody who wrote the sentence, actually crime is down,
Yeah.
you're also going.
And so, and even outside,
We're gonna pump those statistics up with your ass.
and then outside of even the like direct political action that the Soros network and their left-wing dark money groups, or left-wing dark money groups like Arabella Network,
Yeah.
beyond all of that, they're starting to put money towards media.
Yeah.
Buying a bunch of radio stations across this country right before the election. They just announced, they've already invested in PodSafe, in Crooked Media, and they just announced that they purchased. You folks seen that show Hot Ones, where
Oh,
they
yeah.
get the wings and they interview?
Yeah.
Oh, they bought that?
They bought that.
You're
Wow.
They bought
kidding
them
me.
from BuzzFeed.
Wow.
From BuzzFeed.
So they want to.
Foreign money from a Hungarian who short sold the European markets and then spent it all on changing America for the worse.
Yeah.
I mean, Smug.
They
you
got
a
the
great
they got
idea.
the memo of like, oh well, it was the podcast election. Let's just start.
I got the
having our
way. I got the
influence
way.
there.
I got the way to get it done.
Okay.
The way to get it done is you actually have legal culpability in funding crime.
Yeah. Like all the Hamas protests.
So if you are a funder of people who, I don't know, defaced Union Station, who started fires all in every campus across America.
Or if you pushed a Minnesota bail fund that resulted in the death of a police officer.
Right.
Right.
We need some AGs
Like,
to do some RICO
Who
statute
the
stuff.
funding,
Yeah.
because that's, I'll be honest, that's what crime is.
Uh-huh.
Crime is not like the guy who hits the lighter. It's the person who asked the guy to do the thing and then funded the operation. It's about damn time the left has some culpability in that. If you did the math on that, that cat's got problems. That cat's got problems because he's involved in all of them. Great one.
Yes.
That's
I love
really,
it.
really good.
Smart.
I love that. Okay. All right. So, listen, I think we've covered an awful lot of it. We talked a little bit about Canada,
Yeah.
all that. We're going to get to all of that about like annexing stuff. We'll get to it right after this.
This holiday season, millions of families across America will rely on credit card rewards to visit their loved ones. So why are D.C. politicians trying to pass a bill that would end credit card rewards, making it more expensive for families to be together? The Durbin-Marshall credit card bill is a big government handout to corporate megastores that makes them more money, but eliminates travel rewards for you. Tell Congress to guard your card, because Americans lose when politicians choose. Learn more at guardyourcard.com.
All right, so those are a few of the items that we've discussed that we'd like to see happening, but you'd be an idiot if you didn't notice the world around us sort of beginning to accommodate Donald Trump.
Yes.
Part of that is, frankly, because President Biden has not been president for quite some time. Like, nobody really knows. He shows up at these G6 things or whatever and, like, stumbles around. So I guess he's like a cocktail party president, but it's not like he's doing anything.
No.
They're going to do whatever the hell they want. Well, now they know that Trump is showing up. They're not going to do what they want, and they want to get some insight into all of that. And part of that is, like, you saw the Canadian Prime Minister, Trudeau. He rolls down to Mar-a-Lago, has a meeting, and immediately Trump starts trolling him as the governor of the 51st state, which was hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we take Canada. The first term, we talked a lot about Greenland.
Mm-hmm. That'd be great. I think both.
But, like, why not think bigger?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You got Elon,
Right.
you know? I mean, Duncan, like, what do we think? Like,
I think, Elon doesn't have much going on, He's got the Boring Company, he's got Tesla, he's got X, he's got Doge now, the Department of Government Efficiency. So he's got a lot of free time on his hands. I think we make him like permanent ambassador to space.
Oh,
and he's just
great
in
idea.
charge of it, and it's America's now.
can we make it, like, stronger than an ambassador? Because those
Yeah.
expire. I think this should be,
Viceroy.
like, Emperor of Space.
Supreme
Emperor.
Warlord.
Supreme Warlord
Supreme Warlord.
of space.
Yeah.
And dude, he's got the satellites and everything too. Could you think of a person better to have that role than him?
I mean, we should take all the planets while we can.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, but nobody's claimed them.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, the moon has belonged to America since the 60s when Neil Armstrong put the flag right there. So that's ours.
Yeah.
Mars should be ours.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just
Is
look
there
at this.
anything? Maybe we give Pluto to Democrats because it's not really a planet
Well, it's not. They
anymore.
declassified.
It's a planet. It's a real planet.
Is it?
It belongs to
Oh,
us.
you're a big Pluto guy.
Yeah, it belongs to us.
Okay, so we're
The
not going to
Dems-
give them
It was
Pluto.
Obama
Look,
who
here's
took
the
Pluto
here's the
from us.
clip of what this guy's up to. You're telling me we can't annex space?
Yeah.
I mean,
Look
the
at this
guy,
thing.
it's not enough to parallel park a car. He does it with a rocket, bro.
Yeah, it comes on in, and then you've got, like, the grippies. They go in and they give it a grip.
So, I don't know if you may have seen this, Duncan. I invite everyone to go on YouTube. Early on this year, Elon, to demonstrate how you could live stream on X to show the effectiveness of it, he live streamed while he was playing Diablo. He's currently the #1 ranked Diablo player on Earth.
Oh, wow.
It's like him. There's like 3 Chinese players. He's beating China in any way possible.
Already.
Yeah.
We're already winning the tech race over China.
So he's live streaming, playing Diablo, on top of running all these companies, #1 ranked player on Earth. And then while he's live streaming, he's talking to people about, like, all the decision making that goes into, like, landing a rocket in reverse. He was like, we had to use ceramic materials on the outside because of the heat expansion. The guy's like,
He's got, like, 4 sets of brains going.
Yeah.
and then his kid comes in. He's taking care of a child, going over rocket science, playing Diablo, and running 3 companies at the same time.
It's incredible.
Love this
It's
guy.
incredible.
Just love it.
Have you ever heard him do his whole thing about how we would restart Mars? Because this is wild.
Yeah,
Restart?
terraforming it.
Yeah, so in order to terraform Mars, we would need to, like, restart its magnetic field, and the only way to
For
do
gravity
that,
purposes.
yeah, well, also it would create more of an environment, and so it would protect the surface from solar radiation. Like, just in general, if, like, you didn't have that magnetic field around Earth, we would be hit with so much more.
Yeah.
In order to do that, you would need to put nuclear weapons at the poles of Mars and explode them.
And that would create an atmosphere?
Well, it would
essentially?
it would restart the the field. Yeah.
Will nuke Mars.
Well, he's the emperor of space now, so he can do it.
Dude, this is the most Trump thing I've ever heard.
It's incredible.
Nuking Mars?
Yeah.
And while he was doing this live stream, he went over every step of what it's going to take and the timeline of colonizing Mars. And
Right.
like how Starship's going to go and how much time it takes. He was like, we'd have to first build a lunar base, right? Because like it's in his words, it's pretty easy to get from here to the moon. Then from the moon to Mars, it's a tougher journey because not only you need Starship to carry enough supplies, but it's not like you can be like, it's not Amazon of like, oh,
Yeah.
shoot, we need
What do
more
we do
food.
over here?
It takes like 6 months.
Dude, how cool is that you can make the moon your turn off from the turnpike for the rest stop? You
Oh,
know?
it's so good. It's so good.
And he was talking about part of the reason he's building the like Starlink infrastructure is because to be able to relay and have internet on Mars, he was like, we can get to the point where it'd probably be about like 3 to 4 minutes of a delay between
Wow.
like if you hit send on an email from Mars
Shut
to
up.
on Earth. Like
Wow.
this dude's doing big things.
I mean, he's thinking big.
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking
this is
about.
the coolest stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I'd like to take a look at Jupiter.
Yeah. But
And
if we
all
spend-
this is
Doesn't seem so
possible.
bad.
It's all possible. Trump and Elon can make all this possible because they don't have Joe Biden and unelected bureaucrats
Right.
standing in the way of America innovating.
This is the difference. I think you just like settled on it. What you just said is exactly it. You can have these discussions.
Yeah.
This is America being great.
Yes.
You know, we're not all huddled around talking about why 4 fucking like flying objects are over my house and nobody can give me answers like they are in New Jersey.
Right.
You know, like it just stuns me that think of that in a Trump administration. If there are a month long of unidentified flying objects over a state in this country, after what we talked about with the balloon flying,
Chinese balloon.
balloon flying, like, do you think for a second he's not going to just hotlight those things? Like,
Yeah.
they're going to be missiled out of the
Dude,
air within 1 second.
Elon could like create some sort of net gun to capture and retrieve these things. I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know, like this guy just invents everything. Like I cannot wait for January 20th.
But like it's the feeling.
Yeah.
Yep.
It returns us, and like, look, this is the Democrats are going to take this the wrong way, but like how you felt in the 80s.
Yeah.
You know, like America's stronger, better. We're better at everything. We're good. We're secure. There's more opportunity. We love where we're going. Everything's great.
I can just hear "Push It to the Limit" playing
Yes.
right now.
Oh, completely right.
The cash machine's rolling.
Yeah.
You know, take it to the limit.
and I think that's the thing is like for so long Democrats have tried to divide this country, whether it's based on race, this DEI nonsense, this equity of politics of envy and hating each other,
It's
dividing
so
and conquering.
small.
Yeah.
It's
so
so
small.
small. It tells people you're not capable of this. You can't do this. This dream of yours isn't possible. The exact opposite of that is the truth. It's
Yeah.
what built this country, and we can unleash that spirit again.
Yeah.
God, it's so true.
It's exciting.
I mean, when you say, look, we don't often do this kind of pod, but it's the holidays, so we're going to do what we're going to do. And it's like free form, and you're just kind of talking about it. But the more you talk about it, the more you're like, man, we've been forced into just shutting off
Yep.
creativity. Neighbor to neighbor,
Yep.
like community stuff. But like we've been forced to shut all of that off because Democrats have been successful at just siloing
No.
people.
America will dream big again.
We will.
Yeah.
We,
And that's the thing is like think of how much they try to demoralize Americans when they say that like America is a racist country.
Yeah, right.
Michelle Obama's like, I wake up in a house built by slaves. Like America is this horrible, horrific nightmare. We're that beacon on a hill. America is where dreams come true and anything is possible. And they've taken that from the American psyche.
Yeah.
It's back.
It's back.
We're
It's
back,
back.
baby.
It's
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
So look, I mean, I think one of these things that I think we need to talk to the audience about, we're going to do another, we're not missing a day.
No,
We're not missing a day.
no days off.
And we're going to give you a little preview of where we're going. We're going to put some meat on this bone. But you got to understand, you got to trust the process here. Like Bill Belichick used to say, you got to trust the process. Like, there's a whole bunch of executive orders and all these things that are going to outrage the left, which is just like gold for us. And we'll talk about all of that. But that happens immediately. And then there's a legislative process that's not going to happen immediately. There's going to be a lot of left and right and whatever. Point is, like, get on board for the big win.
Yep.
Because this is the stuff that changes our country, that gets us to a point where we can think and have the same optimism
Yes.
that we used to have. And we grew up with it.
Yes.
We grew up with it. Like a generation is not that far. I mean, we're not like old people, but it feels so distant now.
I mean,
really
when
does.
you look at the polling, it's heartbreaking. Where Zoomers think that they will never be able to afford a house or be successal.
So sad.
This country's been diminished under so many years of Democrat control. We're back. All the dreams in America are going to be possible.
Yeah.
So we're going to be playing a lot of games. I want to thank all of you for tuning into this program. It has been our pleasure to do this now 4 years. This year has obviously been a line of demarcation where a lot more of you have been exposed to this. A lot of credit goes to Lee Wolf and Spaghetts over there, who have helped produce a program that looks a lot different from when we put USB mics into the side of the computer and had a few bourbons and bet on horse racing and then just talked a little bit about it. But we've had now, tens of millions of you that have joined us day in, day out through the entirety of all of it. Can't thank you enough for doing it. I promise you, you have not seen anything yet. Like, this is going to be a fun ride. We got games. We're dreaming up new games. We sing, we dance, we entertain, fellas.
We do.
It's a variety program. You're going to love what you got in store for 2025. I've loved doing this. Thank you to you fellas. This has been an absolute pleasure to do for as long as we've done it. It's certainly been a lot of fun this year. And with that, I think we did it.
I think so. Absolute banger of an episode. Gentlemen, again, thank you so much to our listeners and subscribers who've been sharing with friends. Remember, like and subscribe if you have not yet. So, until next time, minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. We'll see you on Tuesday. Stay ruthless.